Welcome everyone to this next session of AAC in the Cloud. This session will be presented by Randi Sargent from Say It With Symbols, and she will be talking to us about communicating care needs. So we will turn time over to Randi. Thank you. Randi, you can go ahead whenever you are ready.
Okay, so I'm talking to Melissa and a crowd out there without faces, but thank you all for making the time in your day today to listen to my presentation and overview of why it's important to use AAC for caregiving. It's kind of a niche topic and something that's often overlooked. So I started my business about has it really been 9 years ago now. I am a parent of a child, actually a very handsome young adult who's 21, and he has cerebral palsy. He is a emerging AAC user, and along the way, I have worked with some very wonderful speech pathologists here in the Boston area, and I've learned alongside them. I am not, let me just disclaimer, I'm not a speech pathologist, but rather an AAC advocate and family user. A couple of years ago, I also had the experience of having to work with my mom, who had a stroke and had very severe aphasia following her stroke. And so the need to have caregiving communication aids was even more important at that end of the age spectrum. So during the day, just a little bit about me. During the day, I work at Easter Seals, and at night, I stay out of trouble by running sayitwithsymbols.com. Say It With Symbols is probably one of the only resource out there dedicated to easy-to-use communication aids that benefit caregivers. So that's my shameless plug there. And I am going to switch over to a PowerPoint presentation. So give me a minute here, and I'm going to share my screen. Just bear with me here. Let's do it full size. View, full screen. Here we go. So thanks again. This presentation is called Communicating Care Needs Using AAC. Just an overview, what we're going to talk about. We'll probably do it in about 40-45 minutes. We're going to review why and how AAC is vital to good caregiving, who can use AAC to promote care and when it's and where it's used, how using pictures and visuals with adults may be different than children. We're going to review the difference and some examples of low-tech and high-tech alternatives. AAC specifically designed, this is a sort of a review, very fast review of AAC designed for patient care, emergency care, and personal care. And then we'll wrap up with some really great resources and a question and answer if there's time. So why we need AAC for caregiving? Often the people who I work with are not experienced with lost their voices. So having a method to communicate for them and having visual aids are vital to helping the patients and their caregivers advocate for their care needs. It's often very urgent, and sometimes even at the end of their lives. So having a way to communicate has been shown. There have been some studies done. It increases satisfaction, the patient's satisfaction with their hospital experience, and has been proven to make for happier patients and better, hospital outcomes. Perhaps more importantly, it retains a sense of dignity and control by having a say or a choice in their care. It allows individuals to communicate their medical care concerns and share their story. As you all know, everyone loves to talk about their, health condition, and having some pre-made tools makes it easier for people to do that and express their concerns to others, caregivers, and healthcare professionals. It allows people to express pain, discomfort, and what they're worried about. By having a consistent use of augmentative communication aids. It provides better continuity of care. As you can imagine, well, as you know, anyone who's been hospitalized, there's lots of people and lots of follow-up appointments, and it's very difficult to communicate what went on with all these professionals. So by having a standardized method for communication, we're providing better continuity of care and hopefully avoiding communication breakdowns. Also, pictures and visual aids, I'm using these all, interchangeably, but this is primarily on communication aids, but it helps people understand their situation in an unfamiliar environment. If you've worked with any elders or even kids who suddenly get thrown into a hospital situation, it can be very, confusing and disconcerting, and, not knowing who they're communicating with. And that often results in behavior challenges. So that's why we need it. So who can use, augmentative communication for caregiving? It's adults. It's just not children. There are children. Children's Hospital here in Boston does a fabulous job with creating all, AAC tools for their patients. But it's been my experience that most of them are adults. They're adults, individuals with newly acquired disabilities that impact their speech, specifically stroke, aphasia, and brain injury. These kind of aids can be used by people with progressive diseases such as ALS, Parkinson's, and perhaps even some of the beginning stages of dementia. Of course, people with developmental disabilities and autism, it's helpful because they're familiar with having visually supported instructions and picture symbols. But it's also useful for patients with hearing or speech difficulties, and of course language barriers. Someone who's English is not their primary language. How do they communicate something as specific as heart palpitations, or they're cold, or they need to speak with a clergy? More importantly, once they're out of the clinical environment, there are family caregivers, nurses, social workers, speech and language pathologists, and other therapists that they may be working with during their recovery. I want to add here that speech and language pathologists play a very important role in this. What I'm going to talk about today, what I am talking about, is generally pre-made communication aids that can be customized. I always recommend that people consult with their speech and language pathologist if they have any questions about the person's cognitive ability, their ability to read, their ability to discern pictures and symbols. If they have access challenges, sometimes an OT can help with that. So language, SLPs and OTs play a very important role in helping patients regain their speech skills. What I'm talking about today is just having augmentative communication available to help people communicate their needs. I'm not trying to teach them to regain speech, just make their needs known. So I work with a lot of speech pathologists because these aids that I'm going to show you are pre-made and generally available from a bunch of resources. So where can these AAC aids be used? Well, anywhere where personal or health care is being provided. Hospitals, rehab facilities, therapy appointments, nursing homes, hospice care at the end of someone's life, homes, of course, and schools. From Say It With Symbols perspective, we have clients using our products in, well, perhaps not school, but in all the other environments. And usually it's done on a person-by-person basis. They have someone come in who has no speech, and they go online and they're looking for resources, and we're able to provide us an assortment of pre-made things that they can use. So in a hospital situation, there's two different kinds of communication aids. I've sort of lumped them in two different categories. One is healthcare communication aids and then personal care communication aids. So hospital communication aids can be used pre-op, post-op, or bedside. There's emergency care, communication boards, which are awesome to be used by first responders or in emergency rooms. Of course, a doctor's appointments and therapy appointments, the communication boards or visual supports can be used for schedules, what's going to happen at these therapists to get people familiar with their environment. And then a bunch of personal care items such as mealtime choices in bedrooms, helping people with making choices regarding their personal care, what they want to wear for the day, who they want to socialize with. In bathrooms, often bathing can be a challenging situation. So you can use choice boards to help make bathing choices. If your objective is to give someone a bath, bathing, you may not care if it's a bath or a shower, but that individual may have a very strong preference. So having choices there that they can make about their bathing situation can help alleviate some of their stress and behaviors. For choosing recreational activities, it's used in, to help people decide what they want to do, where they want to go if they're not able to get there themselves. Often, and unfortunately, I find that people wait too far into the process before they're using some of these aids, and they've called us at the very last minute, the end of someone's life, where they're looking. I'm hoping to allow that person to express some end of care wishes and decisions about their care. So how is using pictures different with adults than children? Many of you, if you're a speech pathologist or a therapist, you're probably very familiar with board maker symbols and symbol sticks and other picture sources that are used as part of a child's IEP goals. There isn't, it's been a bit of a challenge to find picture sets that are appropriate, relevant, age appropriate, and motivating to the user. So pictures for kids, for example, are often infantile or they're stick figures, and adults will find them insulting and disregard them. What you don't want to do is hand someone, an elder person, something that, regardless of the content, they don't want to use it because it looks something babyish. So we recommend that the images, feature adults and be clear, but use adult, appropriate images. And of course, that they express appropriate options and messages. There's no morning meeting, any of those kind of things. The pictures have to be appropriate to meal choices, activities, the kinds of messages that an adult or older person would want to communicate. And of course, it should be able to be personalized with motivating choices and people. This is really key. I mean, if somebody's going to overcome that speech barrier and use an augmentative communication device, then the choices need to be meaningful to them, and they should be personalized with food choices, places, and people that are really important to them. So here are some examples of picture sets for adults that I have found. Just briefly, the I Speak for Elderly Care is a British product. It's a great picture set, but it's in British English, so it's sometimes can be a little tricky to find the ones you're looking for. This particular product we import from the UK, and it's available at Say It With Symbols. Imagine symbol set is something that I think was acquired by Attainment, and those are adult symbols appropriate for adults and young adults, and it's available on a CD. For my products in Say It With Symbols, I use a symbol set called Mulberry Symbols, again out of the UK, which we license from them to create our communication books. This one I'm showing you here, the one that says Personal Care, is from our portable communication book. So it's a small photo album sized book, and those symbols are, they're still line drawings, but they're not, sort of childlike. Go Talk from Attainment also offers a lot of photos, which are really helpful to making meal choices and colors and things like that. So depending on the person's cognitive ability, they might be able to do just fine with a representational line drawing, or they may benefit from having actual pictures. So you can use things like Go Talk or Google Images to download pictures if you want to do that. So there are both low-tech and high-tech communication aids that assist with caregiving. The low-tech options generally contain printed images assembled into topical pages. As you know, most of you know what that is. They're generally easy to use. There's little training necessary. It can be easy to personalize. You can swap out the pictures or cut things out of magazines and put them in. There's often no or low cost to use these. People make them themselves, or I will tell you about some resources where you can download individual copies to use with your patients or loved one. Low tech is portable. It can be brought easily transported between settings. Our portable communication book in particular is sort of small photo album size, so it can go into a purse or a backpack or on a wheelchair bag. Can be used by many different caregivers, as when we talked about continuity of care between settings. Low-tech options are a good solution because they can easily port between settings where the individual is being cared for. They're often easy to customize in the person's natural language and with their interests. You simply write the words or the language and put in pictures of family members or things that the person really likes. The picture here is what's an eye gaze tool for people who have limited head motion and hand motion, but can communicate with their eyes. This is a low-tech option that I make. It's not the sturdiest, but I mean it's fine for one individual, and it can be used by multiple people. And you flip it and you put the pictures in it. So that is a low-tech option. High-tech options require an electronic device to view and use. Examples, obviously, that you know about are speech-generating devices. And if the individual has used one before, then they have the right to use them while inpatient. This was a Medicare issue a few years ago that fortunately advocated on the side of the patient so that patients can use their devices while they're hospitalized, Medicare patients. Generally, there's training required to use speech-generating devices, and programming them on the fly with, urgent care needs might be a little bit tricky, but I suppose if, the person might have support where they can do that. Apps for mobile devices are becoming increasingly popular. So there are a selection of apps that work well on iPhones or, on phones or tablets. Some of the more familiar ones you may be familiar with are the Healthcare Communication app by Greenhouse Publishing, VitaTalk from the VitaTech people, Small Talk apps from Lingraphica. They are free. And then there are a lot of speech therapy apps for both children and adults. The ones that I seem particularly useful for adults are from Constant Therapy and Tactus Therapy. There's usually a fee associated with those. So now I'm going to move into showing you some examples of pre-made communication aids. Here let's see if this, oops. Yeah, here, healthcare communication boards. These are a double-sided board that were designed specifically for inpatient care. They come on pads of 50. They also come in laminated sheets for individuals. You can write on them, the laminated ones, with a marker if the individual can't point that well. And those are a very low cost option. One of the more popular clinically trialed versions is from Vitatek, and they make a popular medical symbols picture board, which is on the top, and they make what's called their Easy Board, which is word based. And the Easy Board is available in a variety of languages, which is really important. So most of these on this page here are available in English and Spanish, but the Vitatek Easy Board is available in probably a dozen languages. So, and they run about $20 a piece for board, and they're pretty good size, like 11 by 17. The product on the bottom here is pretty new. It's from Attainment, and it's almost a combination. It has a little bit of everything on it. It stands up. It's got an easel stand, so it's appropriate to use at a bedside. It has a pain scale. It has words. It has body parts. So that's kind of a neat option, which has a little bit of everything in it. So that's from Attainment. So regarding personal care, so once the person leaves the hospital and is now at home or in a rehab facility and doesn't need sort of that, inpatient kind of communication need, how are they going to communicate their needs if they're struggling with aphasia or have limited, communication limitations maybe? And these are some products that were designed by parents and caregivers. This is the portable communication book, as I mentioned previously. What's nice about it is it's small. It's a 4x6 photo album, and it doesn't look real medical. So it's just a photo album with a bunch of pre-made curated inserts in it, all related to different aspects of caring for someone throughout their day. So it has things about, eating and shopping, activities they may want to do, and it comes with, I don't know, 22 different pages that you can work with the patient or client and pick out the pages that are appropriate. This bigger one here is part of our big picture communication book. As you can see, the images are big. The targets are about 2 by 2. And this comes in, it's actually in a spiral bound book. And there are, I don't know, again, about 20 different pre-made choice boards or communication boards relating to comments and social situations, activities, personal care, and foods and meal. So on the left, it's got sort of core words, so you can enhance the messages. And then the back side of each page is a blank template so that you can personalize it with pictures of favorite people, favorite foods, things like that on the back, and expand the choice options. This one here is called Visually Speaking. It was designed, again, by a nurse, someone who's worked in elder care, and it's a fairly low-cost alternative. It's small, easy to use, and that one is pretty popular as well. Emergency care aids. There are several pre-made options useful to first responders to help people who are in urgent, choking cases. Ideally, these were created so that they come in pads, or you can print them out, and they can go on with the EMT or perhaps in the emergency room. And these are an excellent choice for communicating really urgent need. I'll talk about where these sources for these things, but these were all designed for use by urgent care situations. These are some examples of spelling boards. So for people who can still read and write, spelling boards are very popular. Low-cost alternative. These are some examples. Most of them come laminated so that the individual can circle the pictures they want or write a message on the back. This is a standard ABC. This one is a QWERTY keyboard arrangement. This is actually on a plastic, fairly durable plastic. And the bottom one is from Toby Churchill, and you can print out these as needed. So there are a variety of different kinds of spelling boards out there. So again, these are a really great option for people who may not be able to speak but can still spell and read. So sources for free and low-cost pre-made AAC. These are some of the resources that I have used over the years. A good source tends to be pretty clinical or medical in focus is patientprovidercommunication.org. These sites often have sections where you can download free materials for your personal use. That patient provider does as well. amyspeechandlanguagetherapy.com. She has some free boards that you can make. Say It With Symbols, that's my site. All of my products are very sort of low cost within a caregiver budget. There are a resource guide on there with some free things that you can download. Greenhouse Publication is a good source for the healthcare communication boards and urgent care boards. That she is a speech pathologist and does other kinds of literacy products as well. Attainment Company, a personal favorite. They offer a variety of low-tech and high-tech aids. You may be familiar with GoTalk devices. Those kind of products are really useful to family caregivers because they're really easy to use and they work. So Attainment does a great job with creating family-friendly products. Again, you can go with a leveled device, which may cost $100 or $200, but they're easy to use and durable. And not everything costs that much there. Our friends in the UK tend to be kind of ahead of us on a lot of these caregiving resources. easyhealth.org.uk, and the URL here provides a variety of what they call easy read. So there are picture symbol or picture supported communication aids that explain what's going to happen in the hospital, hospital guides, things like that. There are in British English, of course, but still you can download those for free. Several good sources for things in multiple languages. Widgethealth.com has a variety of boards that you can download in several different languages. The Vitatech communication boards is the hard copy. The low-tech version does come in multiple languages, and they have an app version as well, and that comes in multiple languages. The Greenhouse Publication boards and app, that comes in multiple, the healthcare communication boards are in English and Spanish. And they have a really nice app, a really rich app that's comes in a variety of languages, and I think it costs about $40 or so. So these are the go-to sites that I go to when I'm looking for some suggestions on what to use with a person who calls me. So I suggest these, you check these out. They're really good. And that is the end of my presentation. So I'm a little short here, but I'm happy to entertain any questions that anyone might have. So I am going to, bear with me here, I'm going to switch back to the Hangout mode, if I can figure out how to do that. Okay. And now I need to stop my screen share, right? Can you see me or no?
Yeah.
Screen share. No, I want to stop screen share. Okay. So I'm here with Melissa, and I am happy to take any questions that anyone might have.
So you already had one person who was very interested in the book that you were showing, and that's available on your website.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you repeat the question?
You bet. Someone wanted to know the book that you were showing. Is it available on your website on Say It With Symbols, or is it somewhere else?
I'm not sure which book you're referring to, but my site has a variety of things on it. So I try to be like the one-stop shop for all things caregiving, because I am a caregiver. So I do design some of the products myself, particularly the portable communication book and the big picture caregiving book. Others of the products I work with companies like Attainment, Greenhouse Publishing. That's why I know these products well, because my customers use them all the time. The Visually Speaking is the small one with the sort of line, more hand-drawn things. That's like $15. It's on my website, but they're all there on my website. There are 2 tabs. You'll see a selection of products that say to improve healthcare. There's also a selection of products for elders. There's a selection of products for teachers. So there's a variety of things. So
maybe we'll have you post a link to your website in our Slack channel after, so that people can find that and go see those things. Another question, do you use these boards as just boards, or are they used in a GoTalk or other speech generating device?
That's a good question. No, most of the stuff I offer is pre-printed. So you would have to have a digital version of that to, use with the GoTalk and to make the boards. I honestly haven't been asked to make any of those. I mean, I could, but nobody's sort of asked for that. No, generally the people that I support are really family caregivers who are, this expresses the urgency, but people request overnight shipping a lot from me. So they're caregivers who suddenly are home with someone who has a stroke and can't talk. The need is very urgent, and they are, they could, or, work with a speech pathologist or make these tools themselves. But honestly, most of them are so, I think, freaked out about the urgency of the situation. And they are going online and searching, communication aids for stroke and looking at resources that they can use almost instantly. So I don't have, most of those images are mulberry symbols, which, you can get those yourself. Mulberry is a really nice symbol set, actually. It's free. I can't remember the name of the site, but if you search mulberry symbols, it's a British site. Again, you got to work with British English, but you can download any of those symbols to create your own boards. So I hope that sort of answers the question.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think it's great that you're addressing this. This is a piece of the community that often gets overlooked. When we think of AAC, we think a lot of kids and autism and things. So I think this is an important kind of connection for a group that is often overlooked.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, that's why I sort of made these, because there really was nothing. And as much as, everyone works and loves our speech pathologists, for them to create these tools for one, a one-off client would be very time consuming. So, I think when people go looking for tools, they want them now. And I understand that, I don't have the luxury of being able to personalize for someone, because we know how important that is. But I've tried to adapt them so that they can be personalized. The motivation to use these is really important for someone who has aphasia, maybe, overcoming some physical challenges as well. It's, the need to communicate has to be pretty strong, and the motivation to do that. And so having these tools that are pre-made that may meet 80% of their needs, let's say, is better than nothing in my book. So, I apologize to the speech pathologist, because I know these aren't, one-to-one made, but, if I can help someone get 80% of the way to communicate with their loved ones with what they're trying to say, and help people regain some say in their care, I think that's all good. And, we can always communicate it with things, augment them with things that are motivating, but, just trying to identify those things that are important regarding, there aren't that many choices really, bathing, eating, those kinds of things. I've really tried to be comprehensive, and I've gotten feedback from our users on what kind of thing. One of my favorite comments actually was, where's the alcohol? Where's the beer and wine? Okay, well, so I added, beer, wine, red wine, white wine, beer to my beverage page. Those are not the things you hear, and when you work with school-age children. So, I try to incorporate all the comments I get from users. But I'm just happy that I can make something available to help caregivers, because it can be a challenge when somebody can't communicate, and it results in, behaviors and things like that. So thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I hope this was helpful, at least a little introduction. So
wonderful. So anything you'd like to share, feel free to post in the Slack channel. If people still continue to have questions, you can also post those in Slack, and we'll try to get those to Randi as well. But thank you very much for your presentation, for your time. I know it's been a benefit to people. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Melissa.
Have a good afternoon.
And you. Bye.